first thing. Good day. Okay, first things. Remember, log base 2 is inverse to your basic exponential function 2 to the x. So 2 to the x equals c means the point x, c is on the graph of the 2 to the x function. So the point cx, because how do you get the log base 2 function, the 2 to the x function? You reverse the columns, right? So the x's become the y's and the y's become the x's. So if the point cx is on the graph of 2 to the x, I'm sorry, if the point xc is on the graph of 2 to the x, then the point cx is on the graph of the log base 2 function. So log base 2 of c equals x. And I'm going to change my notation here because there's something here that I'll just say the log base 2 function is inverse to this function. So if xc is on the graph of the 2 to the x function, cx is on the graph of the log base 2 function, which means that the log base 2 of c equals x. Because if cx is on the graph, then that function for c is equal to x, okay? So we have a rule. Whether you understand the logic of that or not, but of course, you're going to remember the rule better if you understand the logic. The rule is log base 2 of a equals b is the same as 2 to the b equals a. Okay? So if we have the equation, let's say we have the equation 2 to the x equals 3. Now that's an equation I actually asked you to solve for homework recently with the way the weather's been on Thursdays and in service on Tuesday last week. Recently might have been 3 months ago, I don't know. But you had this, because I think I asked you to draw the graph of the 2 to the x function and then estimate the value of x when y is 3, or solve the equation 2 to the x equals 3, same thing. Most people got 1.5. Okay? Well, that was a pretty good estimate. Okay? Now we want to move from estimates to actual solutions. So to solve this equation, if you've got a quadratic equation, you know how to solve it now. Okay? If you've got a linear equation, you know how to solve it. If you've got an equation with denominators, you know how to rearrange it so that you see if you have a linear or a quadratic, or maybe, heaven forbid, something else. Okay? Okay, so here's an equation, 2 to the x equals 3. The way we solve this, and we're going to have to use a calculator, okay? The way we solve this is we use this, okay? Now, we have 2 to the x equals 3. Okay? You see anything down here that looks like 2 to the x equals 3? This form or this form? Well, 2 to the b equals a. That's 2 to the something equals something, right? And this is 2 to the something equals something. Okay? So this is the form 2 to the b equals a. You know what? I'm going to change this right now because we're going to have a problem with it later. Okay, I don't want to use b there. The reason is I use b for the base of an exponential or logarithmic, and I know better. But so I'm going to go to the next letter of the alphabet and use C here. Okay, so this is the form 2 to the c equals a. Now, if 2 to the c equals a, 2 to the x equals 3, what does c have to be equal to? If I want this to be the same as this, what do I have to let c equal? C has to be x, obviously. Okay? The c equal to x, and a, I bet you can't guess what a would have to be equal to. Yeah, 47. No, 3. Okay? So, was that hard? You got an equation in this form, it's in this form or this form. Either way, you can identify A and you can identify C, right? Okay? This equation happens to be in this form, so I identify A and C. Then I write it in the other form. This is the same as the form log base 2 of A equals C. Means log base 2 of what? Log base 2 of A is 3, log base 2 of 3 equals x. So we just solved this equation for x. Now if you want to get a number, well, you can draw the graph and make a pretty good estimate. You know, your estimate was, most people estimated 1.5. Okay? And just, you know, here's your graph. Remind you what you did. Here's your 2 to the x graph. Okay. Here's 3. Here's 1.5. Okay. Now we're going to learn to see how your estimates are, see if you're making good estimates, okay? So now you can take your calculator. I'm going to insert another rule. Okay. We'll put a big reddish circle around this. Here's another rule. And I guess I don't want to use x there, that could be confusing. Okay, excuse me. Not thinking ahead real well today. Okay. Log base b of a equals the log of a divided by the log of b. I'm just plain old not paying attention. Okay. Now, for this evening, for the rest of your life, you got to know this rule. If you know this rule, then you can take your calculator. It has an LOG button on it. And you can do log of A over log of B, if you know what A and B are. Okay? Well, okay, so x equals, well, let me write it this way, log base 2 of 3, which is the log of 3 divided by the log of 2. And this is going to be somewhere between 1.5 and 1.6. So we're confirming what happened when you solve this equation by drawing the graph of the 2 to the x function and making an estimate, and people tended to get an estimate of 1.5, okay? You can take your calculator and see that you made a pretty good estimate. Now, if you estimated 1.2, you probably didn't draw your graph very accurately, okay? If you estimated 14, you probably didn't do anything right, okay? What do you get?
1.584.
Yeah, between 1.5 and 1.6. It's a little closer to 1.6. So 1.5 wasn't the best possible estimate, okay? But it's close enough that makes this. So taking the calculator, you get 1.58. Okay? Does that make sense? Is that easy? If you remember this rule and this rule, it's really easy to solve this. You start by identifying which rule or which form you have, this form or this form, and then you identify your A and your C, and then you write it in the other form, and there it is. Okay? Now, if we have a logarithmic equation, let's say it's log base 2 of x equals 5. Now, let me do something that comes out. Let's say, chalk isn't cooperating, 1.7. Okay? Can you translate that? First of all, is that in one of these two forms? Yeah, it's in this form, right? So you write out, and you know, when I tell you to follow a procedure, write this out, write this out, write that out, what I see in the homework is generally some shortcut of the procedure, and it doesn't always work for you, okay? Don't shortcut the procedure unless you're really confident. And unless you pass the major quiz, you should not be that confident, okay? If you did, you'd probably shortcut it, okay? Because people had passed me very high grades. So, you got log base 2 of x equals 1.7. Write it out. The form is, and you copy down the blame form, right? copy it down, run yourself through the process. You do that half a dozen times, and then, if you're confident, you can start to shortcut it. Write out the form. Don't write out anything that skips a step. Okay, the form is log base 2 of A equals C. Here, okay, well, A is what? Okay, this is in this form. A is what? You look up here, what takes the place of A? Well, where's A? It's in these parentheses here, right? With a log base 2 in front of it. Anything in parentheses up here with a log base 2 in front of it? X. Okay, it's log base 2 of A, log base 2 of X. So A is X. And what's C? Well, C's right here on the other side of the equal sign, and 1.7 is on the other side of the equal sign, right? C equals 1.7. I think you knew that. Nobody wanted to say it. I want to be sure. Okay? So we have A equals X, C equals 1.7. So we have log base 2. Well, log base 2 of X equals 1.7 means two to the 1.7 equals X. And I actually skipped a step there that I want you to do. That's what we're going to get. This means that translates to 2 to the 1.7 equals X. And you take your calculator and you raise 2 to the 1.7 power. And I assume you know how to raise something to a power. If you don't, bring me your calculator. I'll show you. It will take 10 seconds. Okay? Or if you don't see me, ask somebody, go to the mark and say, hey, how do I do 2 to the 1.7? Okay? How do I do 5 to the third power? Okay? Forget that. That won't be a problem. I think everybody knows, but just in case. Okay. And of course, this is for people that aren't here today. We're on a snow schedule. You know, work schedules and snow schedules don't always mesh. And okay. So if I give you a bunch of these, you're going to be able to do them, right? You're going to write them out this way. Okay? Because you need to know this. And you need to know it next time, because it's going to be a midterm right after spring break. Okay? We've only got today and next week before spring break. And this is going to be on it. And something else is going to be on it. So now if I have this equation, how am I going to solve it? First of all, is this in this form? No, there's something there that's not in this form. What's there that's not in this form? What's there that can't be fit into this form? the form. Can you tell me what A is? It's what?
It is the X minus 3,
It's x minus 3. Okay, and that's what's in the parentheses. What's C? That's 9. Okay? But do you see anything there that represents this 4? No, you're not going to be able to use that form until you do something. What could you do to put it into this form? You could divide both sides by 4. Okay? So I'm just going to put a couple of dots here. Because we're on short time today and there's several things we got to do. You know, if you divide both sides by 4 and do it step by step, showing the operations, which is what I want to see before you write this, you have this, right? Okay? Then you do 3 dots, which is you write out, this is the form, dot, 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 all this stuff. Okay? Although if you've had enough of these to practice, you might be able to skip right to it. You identify A. Let's see, that's what's in parentheses, that's your x minus 3. You identify your C, that's your 9/4. Then you write then that 2 to the 9/4 equals x minus 3. And then a few dots. You add 3 to both sides, in other words. You get x equals 3 plus 2 to the 9/4. And that's your solution. And then you can take a calculator and say this is approximately equal to something else. Because you can't write out 2 to the 9/4 exactly. Okay? Now let's see, 2 to the second is 4, 2 to the 1/4 is the square root of 1.4, about 1.2. 4 times 1.2 is about 4.8. I'm going to say between 4.7 and 4.8, and you add that to 3. And you get 7.7. Now check me with your calculator. I don't guarantee I did that right in my head. But I think I'm pretty close.
I got 7.756.
7.756, so it's actually closer to 4.8 there. I was debating that. Okay. Fair enough? So you're going to have some of these. They won't get any more complicated than that. There might be exponentials, it might be 2 to the x minus 3, 5 times 2 to the x minus 3 equals 9 or whatever. You just translate it. You do whatever's necessary to put it in this form, and usually that's only going to be a multiply or divide both sides by something. Okay? And of course we can do more complicated forms, but that's sufficient to figure out, let's say, if you understand compound interest, how long it's going to take a $1,000 investment to grow to $1,700, if you know the interest rate. Okay? You write out the equations just as simple as those. So lots of important applications. Get this basis down and have this nailed. Okay? It's not hard, just do what it says.